Welcome to Fundraising Events. During each episode, we will chat with an influencer in the event industry who has been instrumental in helping nonprofits raise more funds. Our goal is to share helpful tips, tricks, and stories that will empower you to raise more with your future fundraising events. This episode is brought to you by GiveSignup, RunSignup, your fundraising event experts. Next time you have a fundraising event, try GiveSignup, RunSignup. Whether it's a run, walk, ride, golf tournament, gala, or fundraising campaign, raise more, save time easily with the GiveSignup, RunSignup purpose-built supporter engagement platform. Get started for free today at givesignup.org. I'm Brian Jenkins, and I'm joined today by Mindy Conklin. Welcome to Fundraising Events, Mindy.
Thank you, Brian, so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so fun fact about Mindy is that I think we could have done this in person here relatively soon. We're both in Richmond, Virginia. So maybe just to start off, can you tell a little bit about you, Mindy?
Yeah, I am Mindy Conklin. I was born and raised in Virginia, love Virginia, moved from Northern Virginia to Richmond to raise my children who are now 27 and 29. And unfortunately, they lost their father, my husband, 10 years ago. Actually, we just passed the 10-year mark due to colorectal cancer. And so Richmond is just such a philanthropic community. We just love living here. And I resigned from my career and started a colorectal cancer prevention nonprofit. So I've lived here just about 26, 27 years, but the last 10 years have really been dedicated to bringing education and awareness about colorectal cancer to Richmond and the whole state of Virginia.
Yeah, so let's talk about hitting cancer below the belt and your mission.
Yeah, well, we first started as just the 5K race. And gosh, we're in our 9th year. The Boxer Brief 5K is in its 9th year. And the first 2 years, in 2013 and 14, we raised money, over $50,000, and we cut checks and we gave all the money away to national organizations. Nothing wrong with that, of course, but then we extended our board membership and we had an advisory council, and we realized there are some really strong needs here in the Richmond community in regards to colorectal cancer education, free clinics for needing screening tools and programs, health departments. We needed to partner with health departments. So we thought, you know what? Let's continue with the 5K, raise money, and actually start doing things locally. So we started that in the end of 2014, and here we are now. A colon health colorectal cancer prevention organization that provides services across the state of Virginia, direct services, as well as large educational campaigns, especially with our large inflatable colon. We travel all over the state with our large inflatable colon.
I'm guessing that is an eye grabber.
It breaks the silence for sure, and it makes people a lot more comfortable about talking about their colon, which is their large intestine and part of the final part of the digestive process. So a lot of folks don't like to talk about that.
Yeah, and so are you guys surely kind of funded through your fundraising efforts, or are you guys now getting foundation and grant funds as well?
Yeah, we primarily rely on our fundraisers. Quite honestly. Now we do have some grants that come in. We don't go for government grants, but we do partner with other larger organizations, such as Polymedco. They are manufacturers of a FIT colorectal cancer in-home screening kit. So they come alongside us quite a bit. Exact Sciences comes alongside of us at times. The medical hospital systems here in Richmond have been very supportive, especially when we're offering an event. So they also partner with us. But primarily, yeah, it's events, the fundraising events.
Well, that's great, and that's what we're here to talk about is fundraising events. I don't think there's a lot of people talking about this, and I think everyone always has questions.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the Boxer Brief 5K. You mentioned kind of when you started, but let's talk about the event and kind of how it's progressed.
Yeah, well, originally it was at one location about 9 years ago, and then this is in Rockets Landing, so you know where Rockets Landing is, being in Richmond. But then they developed more townhomes and whatnot, so we had to move it, and then we moved it over to Stony Point Fashion Park, which was a fantastic venue here. But now we're moving it over to the Richmond Kickers, which we have much more space, and we're more in the city of Richmond, if you will. So I think there's great access for folks coming like from the north, the west, the south, that sort of thing, because we're going to be right in the middle of the city of Richmond. So our venue has changed, and actually our reach has changed quite a bit. Actually, pre-pandemic, this was really a reunion for many teams. Unfortunately, because someone has passed due to colorectal cancer. So, we had, dozens of teams that would come back and use this 5K as a reunion. And they still are. I would say most of them are still coming back in one way, shape, or form. But because of the pandemic, we call it a cross-country movement, because we did offer a virtual race last year, and this year we're a hybrid. So it's really, our reach has expanded, our venue has expanded, and more folks are taking notice in regards to, wanting to get involved in one way, shape, or form, whether it's volunteering or actually sponsoring the event.
So you mentioned the term hybrid. Let's make sure we define that for the audience. Can you define what like a hybrid event is?
Well, it's not just virtual and it's not just on site. I would consider a hybrid as offering both. So it's one event, it's the same event, the Boxer Brief 5K, it's the same weekend, same event. However, you have an option whether you want to stay home in Richmond in your own neighborhood or participate out in California, which we did have folks participate out in California last year when it was all virtually. So
and the important part, I guess, for the participant is they could sign up for either
one.
They're choosing.
Yeah.
Which is great.
And I know we'll talk a little bit more about the virtual piece. We've kind of added a little twist to our virtual piece this year, and I'm really excited about it. I think people are going to love it.
Yeah, so let's talk about the virtual challenge. You mentioned it's a cross country. Last year was a cross country virtual challenge. Are you doing the same, or are you changing it a little bit?
Yeah, we changed it because since we can meet on site, and that's a 5K on June 12th. Last year we did the whole weekend. The virtual challenge was like the whole weekend, and it was a 5K, if you will. So, and people, since this is a race for a cause, and there's not too many competitive runners, we weren't asking people for their times or whatnot. We were asking people for images. Show us, how are you doing your 5K in your hometown? But this year, because of one of our board members, family members, who's out in actually California, he had his race T-shirt on, and he was walking the golf course, and that's how he was walking his 5K, was playing golf. And I thought that is brilliant. So this year, what we're doing in regards to our virtual part is folks can collect miles. So we're trying to collect 3,100 miles collectively of all the virtual challenge folks. And they can walk, ride, run, swim, or paddle. So It's just all about miles. So if you're a triathlete and it's all weekend long, you can go out and run 10 miles on Saturday and then swim a couple miles on Sunday, and just input that into Run Sign Up about the miles that they've collected. And so I think it's really fun. I just got a message from a friend of mine who said, well, I'm signing up this year because I'm not a runner, but I love to paddleboard. So I'll paddleboard all over the reservoir. I'm like, great. So it really is just makes it a whole lot more fun.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then so then you have a cumulative goal, and you can kind of several times that weekend kind of bump people about where they are in the challenge, as well as like encouraging people to upload photos. And that's where I think virtual kind of shines, is if you can get people on your Instagram page or Facebook page uploading photos. I think that's where it's more fun.
Yeah. And we had a team, a soccer team that was using it as a reunion, but a virtual reunion. And so they all had their race T-shirts on, and somebody was in Utah and somebody else is in New York, and they're showing their hometowns. And so it was a great way to actually, gather together virtually and show each other their hometown and whatnot. So it was neat. It was a neat experience last year. We're bringing that back this year.
Well, that's great. So let's talk a little bit about the in-person part. So not many people, a lot of nonprofits are hesitant to do in-person events. First of all, just finding a location that would be open to hosting that. So let's talk a little bit about your venue and how you kind of were able to secure the venue and a permit.
Well, we used actually the city stadium, which is home to the Richmond Kickers. We used their parking lot last year, because it's a rather large parking lot, as packet pickup for the virtual component the whole virtual race last year. And so that got us speaking more with the powers that be, Rob Ukop, Dreama Nunley, Camp Perry over at the Kickers organization. And I warned them last year. I'm pretty pushy. I said, well, you're giving us a parking lot this year. Have you ever thought about maybe offering the 5K, the whole event here? And yeah, they bid on it. So they were like, this is great. And I'm pretty sure they want to continue to, this is not just for our organization. This is something that they would like to open up to for other community events as well. Now, the Richmond Kickers had already been open during the pandemic, during some soccer games, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Folks had to be socially distant. They, minimized how many, attendees would come in, fans would come in. They had to wear masks, that sort of thing. So they've always been open. And so I think it's a way to get people into the stadium. It's kind of a win-win partnership, if you will, because of the pandemic. They want people to experience the new stadium. And again, there's ample space. So it really wasn't a hard sell. It just seemed to be like a great partnership. The timing was right. And like I said, it's a win-win for both organizations.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. The Kickers are trying to do whatever they can to start getting people at that stadium, buying tickets, thinking about this is an activity that they can do. So community events makes a ton of sense to me. I've seen similar opportunities at racetracks. So like, RIR is a vaccination location. Other motor speedways have been, putting on events or some sort of community pickup or something like that, because they're extremely large spaces that know how to operate now during the pandemic.
Correct. And they're just so wonderful. Every on-site participant is getting a free ticket to a game. So
That's great.
Bringing them back. Yeah, bringing them back to the stadium.
So some of the concerns or feedback that I've had from other nonprofits who are looking at in-person events is kind of pushback from sponsors. So how have your sponsors responded to the fact that you're doing this hybrid event, but it does have an in-person option?
Backup plans. You need to have a backup plan. And that was one of the main questions from our sponsors that were with us every year. What's the backup plan? Are you having a virtual option? Can you quickly move to a virtual piece if necessary? Last year, what we did, we had sponsors come on pre-pandemic, January, February, our races in June. So all of a sudden everything shut down. Now, our governor Northam, he actually did us a favor. It upset a lot of Virginians, but he shut us down early. I don't know if you remember that, Brian, but I think it was like in March, he shut us down to like June. Well, that made the decision for me really easy. We can't gather. And I knew that early. So we were able to immediately switch all virtual. So it wasn't like we had what to do. The governor made the decision for us that we could not gather so early. So I could easily then get back to the sponsors and start chatting with them about, some other options. So instead of them being on site in 2020, they could be on site during the packet pickup, social assistant, that sort of thing, have their stuff. And at the same time, those lead sponsors that were going to be speaking and be, the head sponsors of the race, we do small little podcasts. We gave them a podcast that they could chat about anything. So it was a recording about, one actually wanted to do a podcast about breast cancer. And they were like, is that okay? Because we've got some new techniques, some new ultrasounds or whatnot, new imaging. And I'm like, absolutely, this is your time. So we were able to give them something kind of comparative to actually being on site. And I think that's important, is to constantly have those open communications. This is what we're working towards. This is what we're thinking. What do you think is going to work for you? And have a backup plan. Like obviously we'll go all virtual if, God forbid, something happens prior to June and we have to, we're unable to meet in June.
Yeah. I think your point about giving them the podcast is a good point, because I've seen many events that are using Instagram or Facebook Live to do some sort of, hey, at 10 a.m., we're going live. And then you can incorporate your sponsors into that as well. I think that's a good idea in general. I think it's something people could look at in the future for just incorporating into their events, is some sort of live component that sponsors are getting activation in. This hour is brought to you by such and such.
Yeah. No, it's a great idea. Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that. Using the Facebook Live and the Instagram Lives. It's phenomenal. There's so many tools out there now. It's kind of hard to keep up with everything because there's so many really
you do need to know your audience and where they want the content. That's the most important thing. You don't have to be everywhere. You just need to be where the people that you want to talk to are.
Yeah, good point.
So this kind of leads to uh, feedback from participants. What kind of feedback have you had from participants? You obviously have both. What have the participants been saying to you about, your event?
They're appreciative and very grateful for the scrambling and for trying to offer it something again, because this is a race for a cause. So they want to gather, they want to connect. So they're appreciative. It might be different if it was more of an adventure race, or you're crawling through mud, or we're throwing colors on you, or something like that, where there's not as much a connection to a cause. But since this one is, I feel like we're such a small community that, and again, like I said, there's a lot of repeat folks that come back, that it's just really important, again, to keep the lines of communications open with them. And the feedback that we got was that they were appreciative that we tried something last year, and that we're actually bringing that slice of the virtual piece back this year. Yeah.
So in kind of conjunction with that, what is your marketing plan for this event?
Yeah, good. That's a great question. We're doing less. We used to do some like television ads, and
Okay.
we're spending more of our money like boosting on Facebook, doing more social media. We've connected with a local radio personality on the
Mhm.
mic, with Mike King, and he's going to be there, and he's doing some ads for us. So since everyone's kind of like, plugged in, we're focusing more, using all those platforms instead, quite honestly. Yeah.
So one interesting marketing technique, and maybe you won't be able to leverage it this year, but you'll be able to build it in the future. With your event being so cause and these support teams driven, one thing that you could do is build a Facebook group.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
time and time again, we hear great stories about Facebook groups.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
so with you and you're having kind of a cause that, people kind of get pulled into under mostly unfortunate situations, I think a Facebook group could be very helpful, because, someone gets a diagnosis, you guys reach out to them, you give them support, but you also say, hey, we actually have an online support group,
Yeah.
a Facebook group that you could join. It's also another great way for you to, market your fundraising events, which are so important, based off what you shared earlier, that's your primary way of being able to do outreach and support. So
Yeah.
it's just another way to potentially do kind of free marketing, but it's also kind of a network then. If somebody's having a bad day, they can, find someone else who could potentially help them.
Right. Absolutely. And that's a great idea. And that, as I'm listening to you, I'm remembering one of our board members who really wants to do a whole lot more on Facebook. And right now we could be doing more. Yeah, we could
Yeah,
definitely.
the only thing that you have to be careful with is that you do need to have someone that's kind of a dedicated moderator,
Mhm.
is to make sure that the content doesn't get outside of the bounds. You can set rules for your groups and things like that and have multiple moderators. I don't think you'll have too many issues, but it is something just to remember that, you are dealing with people.
Yeah. Right.
And
Right.
people
Right. Right.
will do things sometimes that maybe you're not in line with your goals or values.
That's a
So
good point. Yeah. It's a good point.
when you're putting on events, a lot of events are powered by volunteers.
Mhm.
So if you're doing an in-person event, are you going to have volunteers?
Yes, we are. And we actually, I don't have one handy here, but we bought HCB2 masks, face masks. So all
Oh, cool.
volunteers will be getting a free mask. And again, I think in June, it'll be nice to have them when they're actually speaking with somebody, but we don't expect them to wear them 24/7 when you're outside and you're totally distant away from everybody. However, they will have access. Each one will get a mask. And we haven't, as we're recruiting volunteers, we haven't run into anybody concerned about volunteering and the virus and that sort of thing. Everyone's, again, just happy to be able to plan and to do something, have something on the calendar, if you will, that's outside. We've been targeting more of the cross country teams to see if there's
Mhm.
interest in coming out. Some Rotary groups as well to see if they're interested in coming out. Obviously, past volunteers. The hospital systems that are involved. Bon Secours, I have to tell you, they bring a trove of volunteers. I mean, there was one year that I don't think we could have even had the event if Bon Secours volunteers weren't there. I mean, they were amazing. So they're so community oriented. So again, the sponsors themselves will bring volunteers. So it's always kind of I'm always worried about the course leaders, the course marshals, because I can't have anybody, losing their way or they need to be protected, as the participants are on the streets and whatnot. So that's what keeps me up at night. A lot of times is not feeling as if I don't have enough volunteers along the course, but I usually start early. Our event committee too starts early, trying to find those volunteers, the veterans, the runners, the ones that know how to work along with the police and know how to deal with, races. But sometimes it gets a little nerve wracking when, we're 3 weeks out and I feel like I don't have enough volunteers on the course. That's a struggle. Yeah.
So do you have a fundraising goal for your event this year?
Yeah, we're rebuilding, because last year, it was interesting. I saw one of your articles in regards to, I think most folks took a hit of about 30% or whatnot from the races the races that were on, they took about a 30% hit in regards to income. And
what's interesting with that is donations were up.
Yes.
So, and that's kind of this interesting conundrum that we ran into, is that, the general entry revenue was down, but donations were up. And so for nonprofits, donations are super important because there's no cost of goods. You don't have to supply a shirt and a medal or the cost of the event. So that it was an interesting stance where, people were very giving and trying to support their favorite causes.
Yeah, and we did see that as well. We were down about 27% last year of our gross income for the 5K event. We're trying to get back to 50,000. If we can get back to over 50,000 to gross, I think that's going to be pretty successful. But that's our goal. Yeah.
So how are you feeling about getting to your goal between the sponsorship and just, entries and donations and things like that?
Right now it's a little bit, sponsorships are good. Entries, it's a little bit slow, but I always have to remember too that folks are just now coming back from spring break. So, and since we're in Richmond, Northern Virginia folks have spring break the week prior than the southern half of Virginia and whatnot. And so there's about a 2 to 3 week lag where everyone's just kind of like, just getting back into the routine. So we're really careful around that time, not trying to, market too heavily around Easter and the spring break. Because a lot of people are getting just back into work and getting bombarded with emails and whatnot. So I can imagine that, especially with the sun shining more, that people are going to be, more apt to sign up for all races, by the end of April, May, for sure.
Yeah, and communicating, communicating closer to events is really important now, and spending your marketing budget when you get closer. There's a lot of hesitation from participants who might be interested because they're concerned that the event may not happen. So as you get closer to the event, you can ramp up your marketing a little bit, and hopefully that will give people some assurances that the event's going to happen.
And thanks to y'all make it really easy. Run Sign Up, you guys make it easy. We just keep registration open. I mean, people can register as they're standing in line, Yeah. So it's a lot easier working with you all.
Well, I got one more tough question, and then we got easy ones.
Okay.
So do you have any other fundraising events or campaigns scheduled after the Boxer Brief 5K?
Yeah, we have our end of the year. It's supposed to be our end of the year party. It's the Blue Jean Bash. And so it's a party. It's a live and silent auction, mainly trip related. And we partner with an organization called AmFund, and they're wonderful. And they give away bucket list trips, where they don't give it away. They offer bucket list trips to be auctioned off. And we usually have it at a brewery. And last year it was all online, which was kind of interesting, but we had a good time. And, there's music, and it's just a good time. It's called the Blue Jean Bash, and Jean is spelled Gene. And the color blue, royal blue, is the color for colorectal cancer. So everybody decks out in their denim and their rhinestones and lay back and chill. Yeah. So that's the last event for HCV2.
And so how are you thinking about that event at this time?
Good. It's November 12th. So we've already secured the venue again. And they've got a beautiful garage door that's going to be wide open, and they'll have heaters out there. So we'll have plenty of ventilation. We'll probably cap it. I would imagine we'll probably cap the event, honestly. But again, folks, there's going to be a hybrid slice to it, because folks can participate virtually as well, especially with the live and the silent auction.
Well, good.
Yeah.
So I like to have my last 3 questions be more fun and easy. I call it the teardown. Right. So at every event, you have to clean up and tear down, and nobody signs up for that.
No.
So what is the best piece of advice you've received in regards to events?
Oh my gosh, that's a tough one. And it came from Richmond Roadrunners, I would imagine. You know what? It was at the very beginning. It was Bill Kelly. I'm sure you know him from
I know
Richmond.
him.
So he's one of our main advisors. He's phenomenal. Um, he when we were first creating the event, he sat me down and was like, okay, is this a race for a cause, or is it a, is it beer garden and a good time and you're throwing colors on them? What is this? What are you doing? And that really stuck with me as we then had to make all of these other decisions about what to bring on. We don't bring on a beer garden. It's a race for a cause. It's about colorectal cancer, colon health.
Right.
Having a garden, colon health. Nothing's wrong with that because we have our blue jean bash at the end of the year.
Right.
But the Boxer Brief 5K is different. So again, all these other decisions that you have to make, if you can stay true to what are you, we're a race for a cause. It just zeroed us in and made us stay focused. So I give Bill Kelly all credit for that advice. Yeah.
So what's the funniest thing you've seen at your event?
Oh, my girlfriend surprised me actually many years with their costumes. I didn't even know that most of them hadn't even signed up. My best friends of all that hadn't even signed up, but they came in that day and they were all decked out in their thong underwear. Now they had, tights on underneath, but just crazy, rock star Pink Floyd t-shirts and funky hair and thongs on. And I call them my Boxer Brief girls. And I just laughed. I still laugh every time I think of those past couple of years where they surprised me with their outfits. Yeah, it was awesome.
Interestingly, every single person has answered costumes for those.
Okay.
So I think we're picking up a theme, and I may change the question to your favorite costume at an event.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite event? It can be a concert, it can be a running race, triathlon, it can be anything. What is your favorite event to participate in?
Well, now that I've had 2 right knee surgeries and I can barely run anymore, I used to run the rock and roll half marathon at the beach.
Virginia,
Virginia Beach. Yeah, I just love the music. I love the music. Every other mile or whatnot. I'm not into crowds. I really don't like crowds, but for some reason, zipping in there, parking my car, on a Friday and didn't even touch it again until Monday. It's Labor Day weekend. And just being at the beach and getting sandy and dirty and running, and it was just awesome. And then jumping in the ocean right after.
That is nice.
I mean, come on. Yeah. So that was probably my favorite event. Now, I'm lucky if I could probably even do the 5K, but yeah, we did that at least 6 years in a row. It's a blast. Yeah.
Well, that's great. Well, that's all the questions I have today for you, Mindy. I really appreciate you joining us and sharing your knowledge, and hopefully the upcoming event is very successful.
I appreciate it, Brian. Thank you so much.